Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Tiffany with Voices for Independence, Fitness and Activities, and I am here bringing you a series on cooking across America where I bring you recipes from each state that are widely popular throughout their state and they're known for it. Today we're traveling to Indiana. I know, the exciting state of Indiana. I have passed through it several times but never really stopped for too long. But they have one infamous recipe that they're well known for. It is called the sugar cream pie. I know it is a state pie. Sometimes it's called the Hoosier pie as well. I had to do a little bit of research on this because I'd never heard of the sugar cream pie, and I kind of wanted to get a little background. The story goes, well, actually, hold off on the story. Let me kind of get started because we're at the stovetop because we're going to have to bring some of our ingredients to a boil. So let me go over that, and as we're cooking the filling of the pie, I'll go over the story. But we are in Indiana, and we're going to make a sugar cream pie. So to start, you'll want to go to your stovetop, and we are going to take 1 cup of sugar. We're going to put it right in our saucepan, and then we're going to take 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, and we're going to kind of whisk those together. I have it on a medium heat already just to get my sugar heated, but we're going to be immediately adding our heavy cream to this. Now, it does say if you do not want to use heavy cream or don't have it, you can use half and half, or 2% milk. It just might not be as rich and tasty if you don't use the heavy cream. I happen to have heavy cream in the house because it's left over for some other recipes we've been making across the country. So I'm going to add, if I have 2 cups, we're going to add it, and then I'll top it off with something else if I need. It looks like we're just at 2 cups here, so that worked out well. I'm going to add that to the sugar and the cornstarch that's already in the pan. Now what we're going to want to do is whisk this together and keep whisking it until it comes to a boil. This is a pretty simplistic pie. There's not a lot of ingredients to it. We have most of them already in our pan. Like I was starting to tell you a little bit about the story. So when I was reviewing and researching the history of the sugar cream pie in Indiana and how everything was working out and why it was so popular there, it is believed that the Quakers actually brought it there. The ones that had originally settled in North Carolina had moved northwest, and had stopped in Indiana and settled there. So it has a lot of history with the Quakers. Also, you'll see it a lot with the Dutch and even the Amish. It's a very popular pie, just like shoe fly pie is here in Pennsylvania where we are at. Also, so a sweet cream pie, I'm just going to kind of read the little bits of the little paragraph about sweet cream pie because really there's not a whole lot of explanation about it. Like I said, it's a very simplistic recipe, but it says the Indiana sugar cream pie, also known as a Hoosier pie, has a wonderful custard texture and all the flavors of sweet cream, vanilla, cinnamon, and a touch of nutmeg. And it says typically you put it in a buttery homemade crust. So what we're doing today though, if you do want to, you can make your homemade crust, which is great. You're going to want to pre-bake that a little bit. So you're going to put that in the oven for about, let me see what they're recommending for your homemade or store-bought crust. You're going to put it in at 400 just for 7 to 8 minutes, making sure you poke the crust so it doesn't rise up too much and not leave room for your filling. What I did, I actually made a graham cracker crust this morning because I had the ingredients left over from our trip to Florida last week where we made the key lime pie. So I actually made a graham cracker crust because it was the what I had available. So I'm sure it'll be just fine being a custard type pie. I'm sure whatever crust you desire will go great with it, but traditionally it is a buttery, flaky crust. So that's what that is. So what you're going to want to do, and we're going to be sitting here for a second, we are going to bring this sweet cream mixture to a boil. You want to stir constantly just so it doesn't burn on the bottom. This is probably not the most healthy pie based on the ingredients. So we have heavy cream in there, we have white sugar, and then cornstarch. And then we're going to be adding, once this comes to a boil, we're going to be adding 5 tablespoons of butter. So yes, this is a very rich and decadent pie. I would recommend slicing it thin slices and enjoying it slowly in little bits at a time for, it's not the healthiest, not that most desserts are, and we can treat ourselves every once in a while, but this one seems extra rich and decadent. So everything in moderation, folks. So it looks like we're about to be coming to a boil here. We're going to let that set a second. Also, what we're going to do after this is we're going to take it off the heat, so I'll be turning the heat off, and then we're going to add our 5 tablespoons of butter and some vanilla to the mixture here. And once we do that, we will then pour it into the pie crust and dust it with cinnamon and nutmeg on top. So I'm going to see if I can get this to come to a boil. And again, they say to be stirring constantly. That's just to make sure you're not burning the bottom. It will start to thicken up with that cornstarch in there. It's a thickening agent. Lots of times you'll see it in sauces and gravies. It'll help thicken up sauces that you have. So that's what the cornstarch is going to be doing. And also because we have so much sugar in here, we don't want it to burn on the bottom. And we don't want to scorch the cream. So we are going to keep moving it, and you'll start to feel it thickening up as it's going. But be patient. And as soon as it comes to a boil, we're going to let it boil for about a minute before we reduce the heat. You can let it boil for about a minute or 2. This is going to go in, let me see what temperature we're going to bake this, because this will still go in to the oven. We're going to put it in at 325 degrees for, we're going to bake it for about 25 minutes. Now they say at the 25-minute mark, feel free, pull it out. It still may seem like the filling's a little bit jiggly and hasn't really set all the way. Don't worry, they say. It will continue to set as it cools. So you will also want to let this cool at room temperature. Cool till it gets to room temperature, and then you can put it in the refrigerator. All right, so we got a boil started here. We're gonna let this go for about a minute. I'm gonna turn my heat down just a little bit. I had it up pretty high. Again, this is when it's important to keep your filling moving around. You don't want to stop stirring it at this point. The thicker it gets and the hotter it gets, the more likely you can get hot spots on the bottom and start burning your pie filling. So we're going to let this go for about 30 more seconds, and I'm going to take it off the heat, which I'm just going to cut the heat in this situation. We don't have really room to move anywhere right now. And then we're going to add our 5 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to mix in our vanilla as well. We're definitely going to need to participate in the workout at 10 a.m., folks, if you're going to be eating this pie later. All right, so I'm cutting the heat off there. Now we're going to add our 5 tablespoons of butter. It's pretty much at room temperature. If you want to cube it up, you can. It should melt pretty rapidly in that hot cream sauce. And then we're going to add, of course, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, the standard amount. And then we're going to whisk all that together, or you can be using a wooden spoon. Make sure if you're using metal utensils that you have a safe pan to do it in. You don't want to scratch any coatings you have on your pan, because that can ruin your pan and not be very healthy to consume. All right, so I'm going to switch out my utensil here because I'm going to need to get a spoon so I can scrape all this into our delicious pie shell. All right, here's a good one. We'll do this side. So get all that butter and vanilla mixed in and melted down. Make sure that you are stirring it so you can incorporate that butter. And make sure that vanilla gets mixed in. It is a little bit thick, so you're going to want to take a second to stir it up to make sure everything's mixed well together. Again, we're making the sweet cream pie, traditional pie and of Indiana. It's what they're most well known for. One of the dishes they're most well known for. All right, that looks wonderful. So now what we're gonna do is totally take it off our stove top. The heat has already been cut. And then you're gonna grab, my handle's a little bit warm, we're gonna use a towel for that. All right. And then we're gonna grab our pie crust. I have it right over here off camera. I made a graham cracker crust this morning. Again, the traditional sweet cream pie has a buttery flaky crust. I just didn't have it available, so I made my own graham cracker crust, but again, that would be fine as well. I'm sure it's just not by the books, folks, but all right. So I'm gonna get all that filling out of there and make sure it is evenly spread out in the bottom of my pie dish. And again, this is going to go in at pretty low temperature, 325 degrees, for about 25 minutes. All right, that looks like we got most of our filling out. Don't want to ruin my crust there. We're going to set this aside. And then I'm going to spread it out, make sure it's even across the bottom of my pie dish. And then we're going to take our cinnamon and our nutmeg and sprinkle that on top. We're going to dust it on top. And we need about, just a dusting. So it says about a half a teaspoon. So I'm just going to sprinkle this across the top, my cinnamon. And then a little bit of nutmeg as well. We'll sprinkle across the top. They say to add about a little less nutmeg. That's a strong flavoring. A strong seasoning, so we will put about a quarter teaspoon of the nutmeg. Now this is going to go in 325 degree oven for about 25 minutes, and then you'll have your very own Indiana sweet cream pie. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I'll be sharing it in the comments below, and don't forget to join me next time as we continue to travel across America and make a dish from every state. Thanks for joining me.